Welcome to In Frame Out's Year in Film, where we take stock of 12 months of spectacular cinema and unfortunate rubbish. With Disney determined to show that hollow monotony can and must be monetized, whilst the theatrical experience lays down in its bleached grave, 2022 has still managed to touch the lofty heights of what this medium has to offer. Oh, and before anyone points out that some of these are listed as 2021 releases on IMDb or Letterboxd, those are festival premiere or production dates, and I assure you each one of these was made commercially and or theatrically available in the last 12 months. So with shoes shined, mustaches waxed, and glad rags glittered up, here are entries 10 through 6 of our best films of 2022. For just $1 a month, you can keep In Frame Out going through 2023 and beyond. To find out more, check out the link in the description below. Decision to Leave is a tale of star-crossed lovers set alongside an investigative police procedural. So far, so every movie my dad has ever watched on a Sunday night. What's monumentally impressive here is that Park Chan-wook manages to squeeze each trope for every last drop of pure potential. As a result, the conflict of conscience, eager intrigue, and impeccable chemistry between these characters are all drawn with an encyclopedic understanding of the genre's convoluted trappings. There's a confidence at play which allows for rules to be bowed to, bent, or outright obliterated. Affairs are emotional rather than physical, attraction is more complex than carnal, and the fluidity of feelings is harder to pin down than concrete facts. Decision to Leave wraps all this longing ambiguity and messy morality in a sumptuous, sleepless haze courtesy of Kim Ji-young's cinematography and Jo Young-wook's insomniatic score, not to mention the stellar lead performances that simmer with lonely desire. Park Chan-wook is at the point in his storied career where he can take the most stock ingredients available, stir, season, then serve them up as something wholly original. And if that's not the mark of a phenomenal filmmaker, I don't know what is.
Doucement. Fais doucement. Oh. Mince.
A delicate but coarse companion to Michael Haneke's Amour and Florian Zeller's The Father, Vortex is the most sincere, subtle, and humane work that renowned provocateur Gaspar Noé has ever made, which isn't to say he's playing with kid gloves. As an elderly couple succumbs to the loss of their mental and physical faculties, with their only support coming from a substance-dependent son, the audience is asked to gently lower their soul into a gnashing shredder. The startling presentation of all this, a split-screen medium-format account of a husband and wife drifting away from one another in protracted, agonizing stretches, is no mere gimmick. Instead, it's a stylistic choice that feels essential to parsing out the substance of the entire piece. As the present, past, and all hopes of the future decay like the dying synapses of a ravaged mind, it's like the frame itself is desperately trying to hold on to this fracturing, splintering marriage as they're dragged into the abyss, never pitying or prettying up the most undignified moments, allowing the full range of love, frustration, and draining desperation to ring out with candid aplomb. Vortex is a slow, gliding sledgehammer to the chest. with the original novel still on shelves and its 1930s adaptation long considered one of the great epics of Hollywood's golden age, it's amazing just how quickly Netflix's stab at All Quiet on the Western Front earns its stripes. This is a thoughtful and worthy translation of the source material, one that utilises nearly a century of historical context, anthropological hindsight, and technological advances to this medium to render its festering trenches and pockmarked fields with an oppressive, inescapable realism. The quaking scale and tactile carnage, all realised in a manner that simply wasn't possible at a time when diegetic sound was still a newfangled novelty. Edward Berger, best known for AMC's The Terror a few years back, tackles this relentless polemic with the kind of compassion and care required to capture these wretched scenes with any sense of truth or perspective. Juxtaposing the bureaucratic lunacy of tea-sipping squabbles with the incalculable cost of these ideological clashes, not one brutal assault or bludgeoning act of cruelty ever even hints at gung-ho glorification. From the score's anachronistic stings of industrial synths to a protracted knife fight that will haunt my dreams, All Quiet on the Western Front serves as a reminder that this war was a hell far more real and relentless than any nightmare.
Hey! Hey! Ah!
RRR is retrospectively regressive and replete with roaring, ramshackle revisionism, recklessly ramming religious and revolutionary reasoning into its righteous but rudimentary rhetoric. And it absolutely rules. Every one of those criticisms I just made is far more pronounced in the militaristic, morally dubious MCU or confused quackery of the DCU, and RRR has more charisma and unabashed enthusiasm in one song and dance number than any mask-wearing merchandising opportunity has shown in the last 20 years. Character arcs are crystal clear, as are their internal struggles. The villains are so garishly memorable that they'll have you screaming "Death to imperialist scum!" every time they slither on by. And there are at least 4 individual sequences that could go toe-to-toe with most feature-length movies as far as complexity and exciting execution. It's not just that it all works, it's that it all works with such feeling and panache. Bright, boisterous, and brimming with ideas, every scene pops, every beat lands, and every moment of spectacle feels like something truly spectacular. RRR is the rip-roaring antidote to watered-down Western attempts at big-budget bombast, and a joyous slice of Bollywood bliss.
The world is a much more dangerous place now that pain has all but disappeared. What good is it that only a lucky handful of us experience pain in our sleep? Pain has a function.
A reassuringly alienating experience from the Canadian master of making everyone feel really uncomfortable and a little bit horny, Crimes of the Future succeeds on 2 distinct levels. First, as a scabbed-over clapback at artificiality in art, and the toll that true and virtuous creativity takes on the author, audiences, and cultural climate into which they're released. Second, and by far the more fascinating way to cut down to the cartilage of all this, is to view it as an autobiographical meta-retrospective of David Cronenberg's entire career. All the body horror greatest hits are present and accounted for. CRT televisions, biomechanical devices, gaping slits that represent exactly what you think they do, the transformative desecration of flesh, and yet Viggo Mortensen, as a blatant stand-in for Cronenberg, continually rips himself to ribbons rather than resting on his laurels. sneering at those who imitate the extremity of his art without evolving, adapting, or understanding the intent behind the blood, sweat, and seminal fluid. After leaving the theatre alongside a crowd who absolutely detested every supposedly meaningless, monotonous second of it, I found their visceral reaction oddly comforting. Crimes of the Future isn't for anyone, and spends its runtime actively lamenting those who would water down their art to achieve such universal mediocrity, but it is absolutely for me. So those were entries 10 through 6 of our best films of the year. Tune in next week for entries 10 through 6 of our worst films of 2022. Some Criterion Collection stocking stuffers for our Patreon producers Jennifer C, Claire MD, Beckio, Hales and Rue, Scared Confusion, Jake R, and Nicholas Revere, and a happy holidays to all these amazing folks who support us over on Patreon. How many of these did you manage to catch? Do you agree or disagree with our lists? And what are your personal picks for Film of the Year? Let us know in the comments, and make sure to do all that like, share, subscribe stuff. If you're in a position to do so, consider checking out our Patreon, where you can get membership to the In Frame Out Film Club, your name in the credits, and access to our private Discord. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, this is In Frame Out.